Episode 264, Tallest. Hello, I hope everyone's doing okay. I'll try and stop mentioning it. Still in lockdown here. So yeah, it's not as strict as it was before. One can travel around the place. That sounds very posh. One can travel. And I have travelled a little bit. I've been up to Belfast and stayed in the Grand Central Hotel and stayed in the Hilton Hotel as well, you know, so you can travel a bit. I'm not planning any international travel, and it's not really the risk of COVID that's worrying me, even though technically I think I'm on the COVID hit list, but basically business class. Business class isn't, shall we say, I don't think it's implemented at the moment across the airlines. They are hurting at the moment, I think, a little bit, and they just want to get passengers out on the planes and whatever. So I'm going to hold off leaving the island of Ireland for a while, but I'm still going to travel around Ireland, I think, and I have the odd break. I do work very hard. I don't have much time off, and yeah, it's nice to get out of the house. Certainly nice to get out of this office occasionally. So, but yeah, so tallest. So. Like I said, I've stayed in the Grand Central Hotel, and I didn't realise it's actually really newly refurbished. It's only a couple of years old. It used to be the Windsor House office block, and I think it was bought for about, I don't know, in 2017, I think it was bought for around £3 million, and I think they spent 30 million renovating it. So, and I think it shows as well. I mean, they basically stripped it out completely, the fascia and the internals, and they turned it into the hotel that it is today. I'm not going to spend too much time showing you images or pictures of the hotel, but certainly if you're in Belfast, it's not cheap, it's a nice hotel to stay in. It's also the tallest hotel in Belfast, and actually in Northern Ireland. Now on the island of Ireland, this sort of got me thinking, you know, there isn't many tall buildings compared to some countries, compared to England, obviously compared to America and other parts of Europe. There's a lot of tall buildings, there's skyscrapers, and on the island of Ireland there isn't. So I got thinking, well, you know, where is quite tall, and you know, I then decided, well, maybe we should stay in a few hotels, some of the tallest hotels in Ireland. So anyway, I came across this Wikipedia. It's the list of the tallest buildings in Ireland, and I think it might be slightly out of date, but I can come to that in a minute. And as you can see here. This is split between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. So just looking at Northern Ireland to begin with, we can see the Grand Central Hotels there, 23 stories. Actually 22 of the rooms. I have stayed on the 22nd floor, and the view is amazing. And it's 80 metres high, 260 feet. So, you know, by American standards, international standards, UK, you know, London standards, it's not massive, but it's still pretty good now. So yeah, I stayed on the 22nd floor, and the view is absolutely amazing. The 23rd floor is actually a bar, the observatory bar, and that's interesting as well. I mean, it's there so you can socialise and drink more than anything. But I always say with a hotel room, I find the view, especially if it's a floor-to-ceiling window, is better than like a plasma television, a big flat screen TV. And if you're above a city that's busy day and night, you know, I find that way more entertaining than some of the dross that you get on television. So anyway, it got me thinking, well, maybe I should stay in a few you know, tall hotels in Ireland. You know, as soon as I'm not leaving Ireland, you know, this is the criteria. It's the island of Ireland, we shall say. Now, the number one building at the moment on the island of Ireland that you can, you know, actually stay in is the Oval Tower. Now, it's primarily apartments, and I think there's lots of them are rented out like Airbnb, so you can rent them for one night and all that sort of stuff. Not really interested in Airbnbs, to be honest. I'm much more into the hotel scene, but I have had a quick look, and it's interesting. I think one of the most expensive apartments to rent. Long term, which is pretty much near the top, I think, with a great view of Harland and Wolff and the cranes. It's about £2,000 a month, and it's plus fees. There's some weird thing in Northern Ireland about estate agents can charge fees, but so yeah, which you know what isn't much, based on the location and everything else. I'm not going to even say how much I might spend on hotels a month, shall we say? But £2,000 for a full time living space that is excellent, and I think it's 28 floors according to the webpage. It's 28 floors. That will be near the 28th floor, and I think it's on a corner, and you basically can see pretty much a good portion of Belfast city. I suppose it's quite a dense city, but it's still got fantastic views. So that's interesting. I've no interest in that's interesting, but I've no interest in actually renting a place for 1 or 2 nights. I'm not really bothered in that, in the sense of I don't want an apartment for one, just because they make the bed. You have to make your own food, don't you? But I might do just to sample it. That might be on the list. So I'm just going down the list now, and I apologise for itching my nose. I don't think it's the COVID, but it's starting to irritate me now. I'm just going to have an argument. I think that's what normally that means. So going down the list here, so bit of a surprise, Belfast City Hospital's on here, 76 metres high, my eyes itching now, 15 stories. Well, I certainly don't want to visit there. I mean, either as a patient or visiting someone, so that's off the list, So then we've got the Belfast Hilton Hotel. I'm assuming I know, this is the one at Lanyard Place. I think there's now, thinking about it, I'm itching here now. There's three Belfast Hiltons, as it were. They've got slightly different names, but they're all part of the same group. But that one there is it's 16 floors, 63 metres high. I'm not sure about the 16 floors. I have stayed there, and I stayed on the 12th floor, which I thought was the top. So that's interesting. It says 16 floors, so maybe some of the floors are, I don't know, there are another restaurants on the first floor, maybe it's counted differently. But that's 63 metres. Another hospital, the Royal Victoria Hospital. Again, I ain't going there. No chance. So just scroll on some of these. So we're getting still on the ground when it comes to hotels now. And there's, I don't want to stand the BT Riverside Tower now, that's for sure. Just scroll down here. Then it gets to Europa. I stayed in the Europa many years ago. It's quite a famous hotel in Belfast, and it was fantastic. I'm itching my nose again. James Nesbitt was some Meteor Awards or something. James Nesbitt was there. You might know him from some quite famous television and movie roles. I sort of remember him from the Kia adverts, voicing over the Kia adverts. It used to have this line about there was a 7-year warranty on a Kia. It's a car, by the way, a Kia car. And he used to have to say about this 7-year warranty. I thought, geez, you've been doing these longer than 7 years, so he must have had a good deal with them to do the... But it's got a nice, round, soothing voice, which makes perfect sense for, doing voiceovers. It's got the depth and richness. It's quite calming, and you can tell where it's from now, which is nice. There's a nice element to it, and it's a real understandable accent. So just looking at the list of these tall buildings, apart from Obel Tower, I've pretty much I've done all the hotels there. So I don't know if I will do the tower now. Just as a side note, I've got my headphones are falling off. That's not the side note, but a little story about the Grand Central. As you can see, it's got 23 floors, and I suppose in theory, and it is true. I think the higher up you go, the more expensive the rooms. And basically, I'd always been a high floor. I think 17 is sort of where the normal rooms sort of end. The executive rooms, shall we say, and then you're into suite territory above that. So haven't stayed very, very often above the 17th floor. But I was in the lift once. This was before COVID, and going down, I think for breakfast or check-in. I think I was going to check out actually. And there's a young couple in there. They got in, a floor or two below me. And the lift stops at the second floor. Now, in the scheme of things, I think the second floor is probably the cheapest floor in the hotel. Just off the top of my head, I'm going to say it is. Because you've a 23, 22 story hotel. And at the second story, you could be in a dozen different hotels in Belfast, because they've all got a second story. Let's put it that way. They're reasonable hotels. So. But someone got into the lift, and it was Colin Meaney. Now, I don't know if you know him. He's quite a famous Irish actor. He got in the lift, and I remember seeing that he was in Star. I think you probably know him from Star Trek. He was in something else, Con Air as well. Star Trek Deep Space Nine. He's been in a lot of Irish movies as well, so, I suppose we'd probably recognise him more from some of the movies he's been in. I mean, The Snapper was one of them. There's a list of them there. I'm not going to read them all out, but how about you certainly have a look at it. But so basically, he got into the lift on the second floor, which is fine. Hey, it's okay. He got in the lift with a newspaper, looking slightly worse for wear than I felt at the time, and no socks. Shoes, but no socks. Anyhow, it's quite funny. So he got in the lift, mind his own business. I'm minding my own business, even if it is a celebrity. I don't suffer from that celebrity adoration. But the young couple that was next to me, the woman, a look on her face when she saw him, getting into the lift, I thought she's gonna say something to him. And I always find it a little bit embarrassing that, because he gets this all the time. The whole world must be filled with people with this look on their face of, I know you, you're from him, So I could tell that the tension was building up inside her. She didn't want to say anything out loud, I don't think, but her boyfriend or husband, partner, whatever, was there. And you could tell she's itching to say something to calm me anyway. Anyhow, we got to the ground floor, we got out the lift, and as soon as we were released from the confines of the lift, she was straight up to him going, oh, I really love your work, I mean, she was nice. I mean, she wasn't like, stalkerish or anything, and she was a bit gushing though, and she wanted his autograph. And he was okay about it, he sort of went along with it, but as soon as one person starts, there's a bit of a tension in the reception area. You could see people are going to do it. So, but hey, that's comes with the territory, doesn't it? When you're, when you're an actor, a famous, celebrity. But it was interesting. He was on the second floor, though. I know he has a few houses, and he's according to this website, it's worth 10 million. If you go to Grand Central, though, don't stay on the second floor. Anyhow, going back to the tallest buildings, we're going to skip to the Republic now. I wish they were sort of intermingled as the island of Ireland, as opposed to splitting up. Other web pages do that, and it does say, well, this is meant to be normal, this is, whatever, but it's a bit more difficult with this because it's divided in between North and the Republic. But anyway, scrolling down here, I realise I haven't stayed in many tall hotels in the Republic, Now, actually, living here is probably one of the reasons, of course, living in Dublin. And a few of these across the top here, these are just, these are for, mostly for these big American multinationals, So just scrolling down here, so we've got the Capitol Dock, 79 metres, 22 stories. Let's see if we can find a hotel somewhere. Oh, Crown Plaza. Well, there's one. There's a famous hotel. It's in Dundalk, though. What's the chance, Dundalk? Isn't that incredible? So, just to wind back a little bit, until relatively recently, there were no tall buildings allowed. I think it was definitely shall we say, a policy of the planning department. Because it's a beautiful country, isn't it, Ireland? You don't want to ruin it with tall buildings. So as you can see from here, most of these are relatively new, with the exception of Cork County Hall and Liberty Hall, which is 60 metres there. But obviously these aren't hotels. Some are mixed use, office and residential apartments. And I'm sure there's Airbnbs if you want to go down that road. So, but anyway, forgetting all that stuff, I'm going down the list. I get to Crown Plaza in Dundalk, and it's 14 stories apparently. So that's the next, probably going to be the next hotel I'll stay in. It's going to be in Dundalk at some point during the summer, I think. Just to have done it really and get a high floor. I'm intrigued to see what the view is like. I mean, in the international sense, 58 metres doesn't sound much. 190 feet, but you'd see the sea. Dundalk is quite close to the sea actually, but I'm wondering how far you can see. Can you see Dublin? You'd probably be able to see Drogheda, I guess. So I'll definitely be interested, and I'm definitely going to take a few pictures of that. And then scrolling down, the next one's in Limerick. You would have thought these were going to be in Dublin, wouldn't you? So obviously no, Dublin's not allowed, but the next one's the Clare Hotel in Limerick. 57 metres. Now their floors must be slightly shorter because they've got more floors, but it's not as tall as the Crown Plaza in Dundalk. So I'm going to put that begrudgingly on the list. I don't know about Limerick really. It's not a place I've ever really bothered going. I've driven past it. They have a Tesla supercharger in Limerick. Now I don't know. I'm not being bad about Limerick in any way, because it is a wonderful place. It's definitely a city that's growing in Ireland, but never had any inclination to go there. Maybe because Galway's not far away. Maybe because Cork's not far away. You're going to Killarney, whatever. I don't know, Kerry. It's it's in a location that doesn't necessarily lend itself to say, oh, I'm going to go there and have a look. So yeah, so Limerick does have a Tesla supercharger, so I'm going to bear that in mind now. So that's on the list. And then scroll down a little bit more. We've got the Metro Hotel in Ballymun. Well, I have stayed in this hotel once, I think. It wasn't called the Metro Hotel. It's been a few iterations over the years. And I didn't have a high floor, not an excessively high floor, maybe the 5th or 6th story. So maybe I want to revisit. Ballymun was a place that had a bit of a negative, shall we say, reputation. It used to be lots of blocks of flats, which have all gone now. I think it's not as bad these days. There's been a lot of regeneration in the area, housing, and IKEA. Would you believe IKEA are there? So, and it's a massive IKEA as well. So it's sort of pretty impressive, So the next thing I was gonna, they do separate it out for each city, which is the tallest building, which is fine or whatever. What's sort of interesting is there are some buildings under construction that could beat the number one buildings. Certainly this EXO Tower in Dublin. I don't know if the actual it's not finished. I don't believe it's finished now. I could be wrong. I did have a quick look at the website. The EXO building, I think they call it. It will be Dublin's tallest building, if I can find my cursor. There we go. So, it's a nice looking building. It's offices, I believe. A striking new landmark. So, if you're familiar with Dublin, you probably know where this is. So, the building on the right that looks quite old is what used to be called the Point Depot. I think it's now the 3 Arena. It's been the O2 Arena, and it's 3 Arena now. So, it's basically a 12-seater whatever you want to call it, theatre, and you get lots of live acts there, so that's there. So where this has been built used to be an open space. Now the reason there was these open spaces is because you've got 12,000 people, haven't you? Most will be walking, they've parked somewhere else maybe, I don't know. So that's what this space was. This was literally where people were walking, It's not far from the docks itself as well. And they built it literally in a space that was just open space, so it's very narrow. But it's pretty tall now. Not a lot of parking spaces. I think there's about 60 parking spaces. So they dug down a little bit for the basement parking. I think it's sort of relevant because this can hold 1,600 people. So you're not going to be driving in. Let's put it that way. Now, on a positive note, there is the Lewis line. The Lewis line is and I'm mentioning a lot of my other podcasts. It's electric light rail type system, tram system that goes in Dublin. So from the city centre, you can get a tram that goes, actually the tram goes all the way to Tallaght. It actually goes beyond Tallaght. It goes as far as, I don't know where it is now. I'm trying to think now, but it's like City West. It goes a long way outside of Dublin. And if you get on it, you go all the way to this point, this part of the, to where this building is. So in terms of transport other than driving, yeah, it's pretty good, So maybe you don't need the cars. There's room for 320 bicycles as well, which I assume is to attract your Googlers and people like that. I actually don't know who's in this building. I don't know if it is Google actually, but I'm sure there's someone who's already booked a few floors. Most of these pictures are like artists' impressions and computer generated. This is the 15th floor, so this is the top floor, which just sort of looks nice. You can see loads of cranes, but and you can see the Liffey there. You can just about see the conference centre peeking out there as well. So yes, that's a view. View of Dublin. Maybe shows you the sort of somewhere there. You can probably see the spire. It's sort of hidden. That's on O'Connell Street, but it's hidden by that crane. So that's Dublin. Just scroll up here. So 320 bicycles, 62 parking, 9 lifts. That's always good, isn't it? So workspace for more than 2,000 people. And that's sort of it really. It's been squaws. Is there such a word as squaws? It's been pushed into a very narrow space, and I suppose looking at that picture there now, so not the side actually facing this way, but the one facing to the right, that's actually looking out towards the sea. So that you'd probably be able to see, to see the sea. Yeah, you'd be able to see the port area. maybe not as glamorous a part of Dublin, the port area. You do get the odd cruise ship coming from the US and all over the place. But yeah, anyway, so this is probably going to be the tallest, I think. They seem to say that at the beginning. 8th floor roof garden. So yeah, so this little bit that isn't as tall as the rest of it, I'm not quite sure why they did that. But this bit that isn't as tall, that's 8 floors. There's a little roof garden. And you can see here, all these things don't really exist, so they're all computer generated. But watch this space, I suppose, and see. It's already won an architecture award, but I mean, yeah, let's see it built first, eh? But yeah, so that's that really. So that could become the tallest. Oh, there's a cruise ship. Hey. They don't come there, do they? Anyway, there might be a bit of artistic license turned out. I could be wrong now, but anyhow, so that's the EXO building. So it did get me thinking about tall buildings in Ireland and, you know, what the history of them are really, because, you know, there's been a restriction on certainly building in Dublin and parts of Ireland. So I did have a quick look at what the tallest structures in Ireland are, you know, and I was sort of surprised really. I was you know, in a sort of okay sort of way, I suppose, but the churches are really tall. So number one's the one in Limerick, which I didn't realise, and this is obviously the spire part of the church, St John's Cathedral in Limerick. It's built in 1851, so 1861, if I can read right. 93.8 metres. That's 300 feet. So, you know, we have had some really tall structures in Ireland. And I'm just thinking now, did you not have to get planning permission? Maybe churches don't. Maybe they do now. Maybe in 1861, you know, you didn't have to. And there's a list of them here all over Ireland. There's Killarney, Maynooth, Derry, you know, Monaghan. Really tall, 78 metres. You know, I'm not sure what was the tallest building. 79 metres, you know. Wow, and yeah, it's incredible. So for a long period, over 100 years, you know, there's been ones over 70 metres. It's incredible. So, so they certainly could build these buildings, but they were churches. You probably wouldn't want to live in a church, I don't think. But anyhow, so that's the list. I just wonder about how tall they are. I'm trying to see one that I was familiar with here now. Let's have a quick look up here. Monaghan, Maynooth. No, okay, scroll. I'm going very fast here. I do apologise. It makes you go dizzy. Yeah, so I'm not really familiar with any of those churches, I don't think. I think the ones in Dublin I would have driven past a few times. Not been a big churchgoer, but they're quite a you know, a dominating sort of structure. Monaghan Cathedral, they're interesting, you know. So then I got to think, well, what was the real tallest stuff, you know? And then you start thinking about masts and wind turbines, don't you? So if I scroll down even more, we can see now these are the tallest structures which you most certainly won't want to be living in. Yeah, and I think to the two ones that jumped out at me straight away is the Poolbeg Power Station, chimneys 1 and 2. These are two tall chimneys at the sort of the mouth of the Liffey as you're coming into Dublin. Very distinctive. It's not used anymore. They were going to knock them down. The ESB, the electricity board in Ireland, they were going to knock them down, get rid of them, you know, because the site's not used. But they did get protected status, which is great. So now they are. I couldn't believe the height of them. 200 metres, wow, 207, wow, that's tall now, you know. So, but obviously this was the, shall we say, the byproduct of, I don't know what they were. I don't think it was a gas power station. I'm guessing it was gas. Looking at the time it was built. Let's just hover over here now. There are two stations: the old thermal station and the combined cycle gas station. Okay, so that's very interesting now. So yeah, so that's them. Very iconic structures. And I think when they were built, they were an eyesore. I think people didn't want them in the 70s. The first one 1970, the second one built in 78. And I think people thought, oh no. And yet now they're iconic. People don't want them to go, you know. And there's all sorts of quite slang terms for them as well, because at night they have lights on them that flash and things like that. But anyhow, looking at this, so there's loads of tall structures, which is interesting. So I don't ever think I'll be... there's the Spire of Dublin. That's on O'Connell Street. There you go now. So it's a lovely looking thing, isn't it? So I don't know what it was to commemorate. It was after the year 2000, wasn't it? But yeah, it's the Monument of Light, apparently. It's yeah. It used to be on the site of where Nelson's Pillar was on O'Connell Street. You know, it's noticeable, and if you're at the base of it, it's big. It's a thick structure. But you can't go up in anything like that, you know. So, but it's alright, I suppose. It took me a while to get up there, like, you know. So that was interesting. Yeah. So you've decided, whilst not leaving the island of Ireland, I'm going to try and stay in hotels that are quite tall. It's not a big list, and I've done a few of them already. But you know, I might have a look at an apartment just for a night or two in the tallest building in Ireland, the Oval, whatever it's called, you know, in Belfast, and see what it's like. But I do like a place with a restaurant and a bar, you know, like a little bit of a social aspect. I know I can go outside and walk around the corner in Great Park, Belfast, but we'll see anyway. So that's the plan. That's going to keep me going for a while, and just surprised really that there are some very tall structures in Ireland. You know, churches, incredible. You know, and also obviously office blocks seems to be the things now. They've obviously relaxed the maximum height of a tower block. You know, in Dublin. I don't know if that's a good thing. I mean, it depends where it is. If it's in the port area, you know, it's not a looker. If you look around the port area, it doesn't look great now. You know, the odd cruise ship, like I say, but there's nothing really there. We don't have iconic cranes like Harlan and Wolff, you know. Oh, it's called that crane, is it? Goliath, I think it's called. And we don't have anything like that, you know, in Dublin. We do have cranes, of course, but not iconic. And I know the Harlan and Wolff is gone now. Very sad that it has shut now completely. I don't know what's going to happen to the cranes. I'm assuming they're going to be, you know, preserved as a structure, which would be nice because it is iconic. I've flown into Belfast City Airport. It used to be called Belfast Harbour, and you know, as you're coming through the lock, it's amazing to see those structures. You know, they're very iconic. But I don't know what happened because I was up in Belfast a year last April, and there seemed to be a lot of work going on. There was a lot of work being carried out near the cranes anyway. But I think what's happened is, you know, countries are doing this sort of work much cheaper now. Where, I don't know if it's Eastern Europe, I don't know if it's Asia, but the work that used to go on, you know, in Belfast in the shipyards, it's not economically viable. And I know some countries, I think France is one of them, and I could be wrong here, but they have had a lot of support from the government, the French government, in terms of their shipbuilding industry, you know. Whereas a lot of governments now, you know, it could be genuinely they don't really have the money, you know, or the investment to do it. And I think the UK was a good example of that. Some of the shipyards there, you know, like in Glasgow and stuff like that, and some of the dockyards and stuff, they never, you know, they was never maybe given the support that they maybe should have had, you know. But anyhow, that's quite a political. That's something else, isn't it? You know. But yeah, so I'm gonna try looking at different, buildings, and I just like that thing of you see the world from a different perspective. And a few years ago, I used to fly a drone quite a lot, and you know, I'd look at a place that I knew really well, you know, and then you fly up in the air and you look down and you go, wow, this looks completely different. So, and I think that's the good thing about the whole affair. You know, it gives you a nice different sort of perspective on life, and you know, being able to see things from you know, from a different angle, I think is great. Like, you know, so. But anyhow, that's all for now.